Hey, welcome back to the channel Sears World TV. If it's your first time, please feel free to like, share, and drop us a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you like our contents.
Today we have the privilege, and it's truly an honor for me to welcome to the platform. She was a former teacher at the North Union Secondary School and the Adelphi Secondary School, of course. And she was also former principal of the North Union Secondary School and the Adelphi Secondary School. Please help me welcome Mrs. Irish Mounsey. Mrs. Mounsey, welcome to the platform.
Thank you. Good night. It's a pleasure seeing you again. And I'm really happy that you have asked me to do this interview with you.
It's a pleasure. And as you know, for the North Union Secondary School alumni, we're anxious to hear, your story. And it's like I said, it's an honor that you can share your story so that others who have passed through the ranks of North Union or those who are there right now can get a little piece or grab a little bit of the history. So, thank you for stopping by. Like as usual, we start with asking you for, just a synopsis of, what it was like before you got into teaching, and maybe you can lead us into how you got into teaching. So, like, tell us a little bit of what your life was like, before you started teaching.
Okay. Now, I left secondary school and I'm looking for a job. The first place I get hired is to teach at Adelphi Secondary School. So I would have entered not as having chosen a career, but simply a job. But then in teaching and in going through that teaching learning experience, I found that I really like this and it became my career of choice. If I have to do it over again, I would choose to become a teacher. And there are times, things that have happened which have been so encouraging that you know that this really is something that is so important in getting students to be in the right place for adulthood.
So walk me back through pretty much just before the teaching. The question I want to ask first though is, were you an only child, or did you have other siblings that you had to look up to before, or were you, how many were you as siblings?
Well, there are siblings. There were 3 older ones and 3 younger ones. So we practically 7. Yeah, I am I am number 3. I was number 3, so it's not 3, but 2. 2 older ones and 4 younger ones, 7. And me make 7.
From a family of 7, would you say you were amongst the most successful one in that circle?
Well, I was the first to go to girls' high school. The older 2 didn't go there, but they went to a secondary school in Richmond Park. And then we had younger ones who went to, 2 of them went to Adelphi, one went to Emmanuel, and one went to grammar school. So,
yeah, so you pretty much came from a family of scholars.
Well, I guess you could say that. we are in secondary school, but it doesn't mean that everybody had the same interest and aptitude and ability to take in academics. Some didn't, some did.
Right. Mrs. Mounsey, you're known to be pretty much what I would say a language expert. You were proficient in the Spanish language, and of course in English language you were proficient. Um, how tell us how you got to gravitate towards the language side of the teaching.
Well, I went to girls' high school, and I had the opportunity to learn a foreign language. Right? I have an understanding of Latin, an understanding of French, but I particularly liked the Spanish. So I learned that best. I think it probably was the easiest phonetically. And because of that, I learned it. And later on, I think that was actually the reason why I was asked to join the Adelphi staff as soon as I left school, because the school needed a Spanish teacher. So I had passed it at O levels, and that was enough qualification to teach it, the O level pass. So I began teaching as a Spanish teacher. And later on, I think it was in 83, 84, I went to Venezuela and did a 2-month training in the summer. So that also helped as well in Venezuela, Caracas.
Okay. So what year did you enter the North Union Secondary School?
That would have been 1982, the school year, 1982 to 83. That's when I became a member of North Union staff.
Okay, and you went as a Spanish teacher?
As a Spanish and English teacher, because even though I liked Spanish, I was a better English student, and I actually preferred teaching English. And so I taught both of them, both language, English language and Spanish.
In 1985, I think I entered North Union Secondary School, and you were my Spanish teacher, and I think you were probably the first person for me to ever heard speaking Spanish. And I looked at you at that time, and I actually thought you were from a Latin country, because you had that Spanish look about you, the way you were rolling your tongue, speaking the Spanish and everything, and then your name again. I really thought that you were imported just for teaching Spanish, because you made it so easy. You made it so easy for us at that time.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Mr. Kane also was there, and I think because he would have been the senior Spanish teacher, he would not have appreciated having something less. So you had to aspire to Mr. Kane's, Godson Kane's standards, you know. So,
right. So what role did Godson Kane played in helping you to integrate into the secondary level of teaching Spanish?
I actually was teaching it before I came to North Union, you know. I was at Adelphi teaching it. But when I came there, he was such a masterly person. He was just like if he actually just came out of both Spain and France together. He was so good because he could switch to anyone, you know. He was so good at it, very good. So you tend, because he was like this, you tend to, you know, exert yourself. But I would say I also tried the same methods before, because I know that it's actually better to learn a language in immersion, you know. So even though we're not immersed inside of the classroom, we would still try to create the feel that it's real situations, that we are talking about. So when you go into the class, you're speaking Spanish and you are doing whatever you're teaching, you're telling them things, and you're doing it in Spanish so that you have that sense of emotion, even though it's only for a very short time per day, you know, but it's usually better that way.
Right. Paint the picture of what North Union Secondary School was like when you got there.
Okay, well, North Union was in regard to the teachers, it was a very nice group of teachers, and I would think that they were quite friendly. It was like if you were meeting family when you encountered them, you had good rapport with each other. You had people who just loved to get an audience and talk and tell stories. And so you were able to get into each person's lives in a different kind of way, you know? So each person, sometimes they would tell you things about when they were in college, what they did and how, you know, and it was very funny. Sometimes it would be very funny. And you would just enjoy having these accounts. And we actually had very good storytellers. And then sometimes you would have a number of people having certain interests. And one of these strong interests that existed in the staff was Scrabble. Everybody liked to play Scrabble. And so it was you had championships, right? And so on. So everybody tried to compete. So we were competitive in that. But other than that, we worked as a team. You know, it was a team effort because we were having students who were not necessarily among the brightest, because many of the students who came might not have passed common entrance. Some might have passed, but not at that high level, you know, where you would have gotten into a secondary school like grammar school or one of those in town and so on. So we worked together and it was all about the students, the interest, getting them to be interested in learning.
North Union Secondary School or North Union, the school was meant to be like a trade school or something like that. It was actually a junior secondary school. Just explain briefly what that is in comparison to now, what it is today.
The schools within that were outside of Kingston, I guess, with the exception of Emmanuel and Mountain View Adventist Academy, they were really created to become junior secondary schools. And these schools were meant to be accommodating, right, the students
more
who
trade,
had
to do more trade and stuff like that, woodworking,
right,
home economics and agriculture and stuff
right.
like that. Right.
Yeah, so that's what they were really intended to do. But these principals who were heading these schools, they were able to see that there were students who could make it academically, just that they had developed a little slower than others. And because of this, what they did was accommodate them within the secondary school system. So I am not quite sure, I'm not quite sure of the process they went through, but eventually the schools were all recognized as secondary school, full-fledged secondary schools after a while. But I recall that in Adelphi, Mr. Henry what he did, the children were supposed to leave at Form 3. They would write a school leaving certificate. They would get their training in the skill training, whether in home economics or art and craft or whichever area, and they would write an exam, which was called a school leaving certificate, which was called a school leaving exam, and they would receive a certificate and leave at Form 3. But he selected, based on the results, he selected a number of students, and then he created a Form 3A, and he began teaching Form 3 stuff as would be taught in a regular secondary school. And from there, they moved up to Form 4 and Form 5, and then they eventually wrote their GCs and CXCs and whatnot. And this became a thing. Everybody did it. And so we have a system now where instead of having, okay, these schools as more like for technical vocational, we have special institutions called the tech work schools. And at the end, I think more opportunities for students to be involved in academics.
So you have gotten there while it was a junior secondary school, or it was already a
Well,
full-fledged?
I can only remember the acronym NUSS, so it must have been a secondary school at the time I got there. I am sure of that. Must have been a secondary school.
You, Mrs. Mounsey, would have been at North Union Secondary School from during the heydays and the days when the school rose to a plateau, pretty much. Tell us some of the highs there that you witnessed while you were there as an educator.
Highs as in?
As in the school rising to become one of the top, because at one time the school had plateaued to one of the top secondary school on the island, pretty much in terms of academical achievements and stuff like that.
Well, again, I would want to say that the staff worked hard. People coached the students. So you coached them so that they were able to learn the stuff. Sometimes it meant giving up vacation like Easter. Teachers who taught at fifth form and so on did not take a break. They instead went through the Easter giving students lessons so that they could be prepared to write their CXCs and do it properly. So they used every available time. I think they actually took maybe a week or two in December, and then Easter was definitely school. And then at the end, in April, May, around there, students would write their CXCs. But I think one of the things that happened in North Union is that besides the academic, you had the students were able to excel in different areas. So we had some performances at the things like the festivals, the music festivals. So you had these outstanding performances. You had drama festivals, and students also performed well. So whatever they involved the students with, the school involved with, it was done well. And because they did it so outstandingly, then people took notice of North Union. I think one of the things that also helped was their winning JC's public speaking 2 consecutive years, and it was one in a resounding way, right? You know, the
Right.
first year I think it was 86, 87, and we had Glenn Brown winning there, and she won in 2 categories. And then the next year, Jacqueline Archibald won, and she won in all 3 categories. She won everything. But well, I worked along with them. I trained them, and
well,
I was
I was going to say you're holding back on you because you were very not just you trained them. You were very very instrumental in making sure that they were well prepared for these JC's public speaking competition. You know, like I can recall. I think it was Glenor Brown's the first one that they won. She ended this speech by saying, ladies and gentlemen, festina lente. And I know that really came from you. Later on, I found out that it's Latin and it wasn't Spanish.
right. It was Latin. It meant or it means hasten slowly. Don't go too fast. Take your time. Hasten slowly.
Yeah, I remember very vividly. But Mrs. Mounsey, I feel like you're holding back on your contribution to North Union Secondary School, because when you mentioned it just like it was just a brush you did, but you invested a lot of time and energy into preparing that. So don't hold back on us. Like don't be shy to say your achievement, because it's people like you who made North Union put North Union pretty much on the map. I mean, apart from the student, but we're talking about teachers like you, and we can go on and mention some teachers like the Ken Johnsons and Mr. Henry for sure. He is the king of all.
All the music.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We have people like the Brayton Horn, who would come into poetry and drama, and the Chico Young and those people, even like the Frank Jones, they all contributed in such a way in making the school. The Judith Balla, of course, I'm pretty sure you would have worked along with her for the public speaking as well, right?
I worked with her both at Adelphi and at North Union. She wasn't really involved in the public speaking, but one person I think who has not been credited is Mr. Stephen Huggins. He was the one who brought his expertise to help us with the research and and things of that nature. Yeah, he was the one who was able to make an impact and help in the preparation. So he helped a lot. And we were able to have both Jacqueline and Gleno. They really did us proud. And I think because they were exposed in this way, it sort of helped to make North Union into a household name. And many students who might not have considered that chose to go to North Union because they realized that this is a school that you can reckon with it. It's a very big thing. So it became well known.
Yes,
and,
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
You have worked your way up to becoming principal. So, but we don't want to go there yet. Walk us through like some of the principals or deputy or acting principals we have worked with over the years coming up, and how those experiences have transformed you into being one of the principal yourself. So walk us through like some of the experiences you got from the various deputies or the various principals that you worked with.
Mhm. Okay, I became the principal of North Union Secondary School in 2001 school year when Mr. Williams left. I had several models on whom I would build my principalship. And first of all, there was Mr. Alban Henry, because he was my principal at Adelphi Secondary School. I had spent about 10 years in Adelphi Secondary School. So you minus from that times to go out and study and so on. And then after that, I met him again. Well, at least he invited me up in 2000, sorry, not 2000, but 1982, 83. He invited me to come up to North Union. So I worked with him a number of years. And I think he was a very great person, very quiet, very diplomatic and tactful. And, I don't know whether it came from his musical and ability to compose and that sort of thing. I don't know whether that came from that, but he was a very tactful kind of person. And he was always soft spoken, and you would hear that deep throaty chuckle when he got a joke, and he would laugh, and and thing. And he really did a lot for the school in terms of preparing choirs, making these folk songs so that the school could prepare. He himself would train the groups and assist in the training. I think Johnson also did some, but both of them were, well, the relationship may have contributed to one being what he is. Yeah. So he did a lot for the school in terms of music. He was a good disciplinarian, and he believed in not sparing the rod and spoiling the child. I remember one day somebody from the area was passing by at North Union School, and he was passing by, and the school was so quiet. He said to the other person, that Henry have to be a wicked man. Watch how he got them children quiet. Yeah. So that was the idea, that for him to have them under so much control that it could be so quiet, then he had to be wicked, he had to be beaten. But it wasn't like that. But he would beat from time to time, but not like going around and just flinging blows and and that sort of thing all the time. And he had a way of, I know, as a young teacher, I remember you go into the classroom, you have no kind of training, but what he did, he would go in with you at times and he would demonstrate how to teach a lesson, right? And
Wow.
that helped so much because you had a good teacher there and you could model based on that. And you learn so much in preparation for going to teachers college and then, wherever it took you from there. So he was very good. And he left in 1984, 85. And then Dr. Marks, well, she wasn't Dr. Marks then, but she took over as the acting principal.
We're talking Veronica Marks, right?
Yeah, Dr. Veronica Marks.
Right.
She took over for 1 year. So she served for the 1985-86 school year. And when you look at her, she's a very quiet kind of person. I don't believe she ever used the strap at all, but the school was well managed. The school was a working place, right? And she managed everything down to the last detail. So, and one of the things is that she was quiet, but she put the children first. The students were the most important things to her. And she would make sure that each child got justice, right? So she managed without a strap, and she managed also by just using her mouth. She would talk to you, and at the end, you may have people crying just from the words, nothing, nothing physical. But that's how her discipline was different, you know, and everything else went into building the school, but it only lasted for 1 year for her. And then in 1986, 87, Mr. Williams, Dr. Westwick Williams, he became the principal, and he lasted until 2000, 2001. So yeah. Now he too was a diplomat, and he too was able to handle the school very well, keeping strict discipline. But he did it with the help of the strap, just like
he
Mr.
used the
Henry.
strap. That's what I was
Yeah,
gonna say.
he
He
had
used
the
the
strap.
strap.
But one of the things that stood out about Mr. Williams was that he was one who didn't really, who was never satisfied with leaving his environment the same way he met it. So he came and he met a space that could be used as a netball court, but it was never used as a netball court. So he organized, had it paved and fenced, and there was a court created. And he also realized that administration did not have the kind of room that it deserved. And he raised the funds and created a block for administration. And the block now stands between two buildings that were there originally. So, and to do all of this, these kinds of things, Mr. Williams had a very strong PTA. The PTA was very strong and they supported the school well. And one of the things that he did was mobilize and have fundraising. So he had lots of fundraising. The main one we had was the sponsored walk. The sponsored walk on it was the Independence midterm holiday that we got. That would be one of the days would be used for the sponsored walk. And everybody went walking, teachers, everybody. We had a good time. It was a good a good time. Whether you raise money or not, there you were walking, you know. So that was a good point. No, so when I became principal, what I did was take a bit from this, a bit from that, and I make my own style because we have like, yeah, my a poet, a St. Lucian poet, Derek Walcott. Walcott said that you must read what others have written and then you speak with your own voice. So I learned from these guys, and then I do my own thing. So I am different, you know? So I too learned to interact with the students. Well, at least I do that as a teacher, interact with the students closely. Students are more important, the most important part of a school. And you can't sideline them, right? You have to treat them with respect, and you have to give them that opportunity to respect you in turn, and they would respond well to you. Okay, so I learned all of that from these guys who, well, they were my mentors. And so we learned that we have to do the right thing by the students. And sometimes doing the right thing by your student, it would mean that you would be ostracized and people would be vexed with you. Because I can tell you of a time when I was the principal of Adelphi School. A student came and they complained of being sexually molested by another principal of another secondary school. And the matter went to court. So I am being blamed for not speaking to the principal first before the parents decide to deal with the matter this way. But that's not my job. My job is with the students, you know?
Right.
So my thing is that I have to stand with my students because it can be collegiality with abuse. You can't in any way condone or abuse, even though it's somebody who you know, somebody who you feel is respected in society. You can't condone those kinds of things. No collegiality with abuse. That was my philosophy. It has been a case where you still have enemies because of those things, but what do I care? It's you do the right thing for your students, regardless.
True.
Mhm.
And that leads me to you being in terms of a disciplinarian, right? I cannot recall you being one of those teachers who would just eject someone from your class as a form of discipline. I think I remember you as a teacher who would embrace the student. So students more gravitated towards your style because you want the one to be kicking this one out of class and kicking that one out of class. It was more you got your respect a different way, you know, as in terms of having kicked someone out of your class for as a part of a discipline. So
Yeah,
I
thank
can
you.
see I can see where your leadership role comes into play now when you got to being a principal now. Tell us some of your experiences as a principal, some of the changes or the things that you know, the difference you made in the lives of the students.
Well, I would say that well, I didn't have much time at North Union to really make a great difference, right? But I would say that um, okay, the school had to be shaped in a certain way. And even though there was not much time at North Union, there was still some things that I did. And one of the things I remember, well, I always stand up for my students. And
Right.
I remember the staff, it changed a lot in 2001, in 2001, 2000, 2001. From there on, the staff changed. Most of the staff was new brand people. And you found that the staff tended to be very individualistic and they're not really the team spirit that we had. So yes, we did do a number of things. We were able to have things like barbecue and so on. We stand for discipline, but it's not in the same kind of spirit. And you would have teachers come with some things like, I remember one teacher who later became a principal. She came to me and she was most upset because a student had the student had refused. The student told her, no, I can't take part in heats. I have a problem, a health problem. I cannot take part in heats. And the teacher was most upset. So she brought the child up to me and was basically telling me that I must make the child go and run in this heat. So I spoke to the child and I said, what is the problem? And the child said, Miss, yesterday in heat, I got sunburned. And the child is a very fair child, very fair. And when I looked at her, it's the first time I was seeing sunburn, and all her skin was sore. So
Wow.
how could a teacher, knowing this, seeing this, how could they now be insisting that I make this child go in the sun again and get further burn? She is suffering already. So I told the child, no, you cannot run, do not run. And that teacher would take my name and she would walk it about and say, oh, I am against discipline because I let this child thing and it's so embarrassing. But this is wickedness to actually make a child. It's abuse, child abuse. I do not agree with it and I will never condone it. You cannot do these things to children. So I would stand against these things. And if it means standing against my teachers, I have to do it because the child also has human rights and you cannot afford to do things like this to a child. So yes, discipline was there. We did things like we did our fundraising, but I think we did a barbecue that year. And we also were able to do some of I think we did some walking that year and the barbecue, I think. But my aim was to have a steel band at North Union. But I was moved after 1 year. I can't tell you why. I actually don't know why I was moved. Because I can't tell you why I was moved. But the powers that be decided that I needed to go to Adelphi. And when I was sent to Adelphi, I took my dream there because I'm realizing that students need to have something when they go out. And in Adelphi, at that point, was not achieving. They were like, kind of like a pariah school. And people used to take the acronym ASS. And of course, this is what they would refer to the students as. So it was not a healthy kind of place. But I decided that wherever I go, I will be, wherever I am thrown, I will be planted and I will grow there. And so Adelphi was able to achieve the dream. We had a lot of help from the lottery. We did our fundraising every New Year's Day. Every New Year's Day. My staff and we would hold a fair in Bayabu. And that fair was well supported. So we raised the fund. It was many, many thousands of dollars we had to raise. And the lottery gave us a lot of support. We bought instruments from Trinidad because that's where you get the quality chrome-plated instruments. And we were able to set up a shed, a pan shed. So we got local people to sponsor those things. And we did a lot of fundraising with a very small staff, nothing like North Union staff, but we did a lot until right now, nobody remembers that the acronym for Adelphi Secondary School could be derogatory. Nobody bothers. They say Adelphi, and and that's it. I don't think I've heard that acronym used, in a word. So I did a good bit, and I think I did most of it at North Union. At Adelphi. Adelphi was where I really had a chance to do things.
Right. So, what was the staff like at the North Union Secondary School during your time?
You mean in the earlier part or the later part?
Yeah, because I heard stories like, especially your when your kids come to visit you, they used to compare it and wish that
Oh yes,
the grammar
yes.
school, yeah.
Yeah, as I had said before, this school was quite unified. The staff was quite unified. And yes, one of my sons, the other one never actually came to North Union, but the younger one came. And when he came, he was always enthused about North Union School because he used to come very regularly. And when he came, he would be like, oh, they're nice, and so on. And he would tell me that it was nothing like what he saw at grammar school, that the staff was, people were chatting, whereas in grammar school, everybody is just into themselves and at the desk, and nobody talking, nobody saying a word. So you could leave the school that he was seeing there, you could leave that school and don't even know the person next to you. But at North Union, it was not like that. Whoever we actually sat on at tables, and we had like, in my case, I had Mrs. Jackson on one side and Godson Kane on the other side. So those were the people that you're immediately interacting with. So of course, if we're sitting at the same table and your books can get mixed up a bit if you're not too careful with the pile and so on. So you have to have great relations, right? So that was how we had to do it. Everybody was on good terms with your immediate neighbor, but you had good terms overall. And so we had people like Beverly Phillips, right? Remember her? Right.
Of
And you
course,
had Anthony Mark.
she's actually right here in Canada.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anthony Marks, Brayton Hahn, Ken
Howie Prince,
Johnson,
the Howie
and
Prince.
right, Hendrickson, good luck, you know that one? They used to
Yes,
call
of
him
course.
Bubble. Right. Hendrickson, good luck. Well, actually, the Bubble name is not really because he did anything, but his
No.
father was called Bubble.
Oh,
So,
okay.
right. So they just used it as a way of sort of identifying him as his father's child.
Mhm.
So you had Hendrickson, good luck. Then you had people like Danny Herbert,
Mhm.
Elford Charles, Patricia Balla, Elvis Daniel, Godson Kane, Norma Jackson, and we had everybody working
Yeah,
together
Miss
as
Charles
a
and Miss
team.
Durant and
Right.
those.
All of those.
You guys were like a
And,
dream team, I think, at that time.
yeah. Yeah, I think the main thing that what did the trick was that you had people who were committed, right? Later on in 2000, 2000 to 2001, when I became the principal, it was a kind of different staff I was dealing with. It was different, and it was nothing like that dream team we had before.
Yeah, so being an educator is not, like, as we know, it's not easy, because you have to get you're getting kids from all different social, economical background, and then you have to gel everybody together. And I always say that educators don't get paid well enough for what you're doing. So you guys don't get paid for what you're doing. So it has to be the love of it, that you
Yeah.
guys did it, and you did it with passion, with pride, So At this time, I want to say, thank you for all that you have done, as an educator, as a mentor, as someone that people can come up to for advice, and stuff like that. Because when you like people like you, Mrs. Mounsey, you took us students as like your own children. And it's something that you didn't have to do. The North Union Secondary School alumni had their first ever grand reunion, and you, of course, were one of the honoree at the gala. What did it feel like being amongst the students and receiving something to say thank you from them? What was that feeling like?
Well, how do I describe it? I want to think it was, a moment of pride. I actually felt very proud, not just for the fact that I was remembered, but that you had all done well. And, I felt happy that the students we had worked with had done well and they were able to reach certain heights. And what they were actually saying in that reunion was really, thank you for having helped me, right? They didn't say it in those kind of words, but that's what they were really saying. And you felt really gratified that your labor had not been in vain, and that these students were really making you feel that what you had done was something that was important to them, and something that, had you not been there, it would not have been the same. So I was really proud, and I was very honored that you would remember me. I didn't realize that I had made that much of an impression on y'all, but I was happy to be remembered.
We were excited just as you guys, because when I look at the photos now, even and I say, wow, they're all happy. Look, for us, I think it's just the fact that we got you guys together. That alone was pleasing, was a pleasing sight. And then, for us to say thank you, it was just the extra mile of us really showing that appreciation for what you guys have done. Maybe along the way we weren't happy with some of the decisions that you guys would have made, concerning us, but it was all for the betterment of our lives, for our education, and for to face everyday life like now. So again, I say again, a big thank you. And I hope again in the future we can go another step further and be able to accommodate you guys again, and also those who have moved on. We can do something for them in terms of remembering the Judith Ballard, the Elvis Daniel, and the Norma Jackson, and the Colin Haywood, of course. So during your time and the Chico Young, it's just amazing. We who are here now, I guess we can only celebrate life and celebrate with you guys. What would you say are some of your best or favorite moments, your favorite moments at North Union? And it could be something funny or something. It doesn't have to be like academics, but your most memorable time, I should say that.
Well, I would want to think that one of my most memorable times at North Union was actually dealing with a group of students. And those students, many of them have come to me, and a few of them have said, at least two have said, Miss, I became a teacher because of you.
Wow.
And I feel, this is the crowning moment of my life. I became a teacher because of you, the kind of influence that you would have had on me.
Wow.
And it was late in my career, in the 1997, 98, around there. I was led to this class. I was told to become the form teacher. I was sort of new because I had just come back from study leave. And I was new, I didn't know them. And I was sent to this class. And what I heard, I don't usually, one of the things that I do, I don't really listen to stories about you, right? I like to judge people based on how they interact with me, what I learn from their interactions with me. So I heard in the staff that these students were so rude, they were so disgusting, and they were like pariah, outcasts within the school. They were so bad as they were described by some of the staff. So I am sent to the class, I go to them, and when I go to them, I find out that they are not pariah. They are, sorry, not that they are not pariah, they are pariah, but that they are like not the rude and disruptive kind of persons that they are made out to be. Instead, I find that they are disenchanted. They are not happy with how they're being shortchanged, right? They're not being they're being shortchanged in getting their education. And they had been blacklisted by some of the staff. So when I listened and I didn't hear that from them, what the staff said. Instead, what I heard as I listened was they were struggling to survive. They were struggling against the injustice that was being done to them. Some teachers were not going to their classes. They refused to teach the students, right? Wow. And this made them very angry because they deserved better. And there were other things that had happened before, and that made them angry. These things built up. So it was a case where these students needed some counselors, they needed mature counselors and wisdom so that they could be guided and they would not make foolish decisions based on how they felt at the time. So I listened to them, and as I listened, I gave them the appropriate counselors, I gave them the appropriate help they needed, and I received in return something very tangible from them. The first thing that I received was that they had basically decided that come what may, they were not going to drop out of school. They were going to remain in school and finish properly with class, right? Oh. Then next thing I did get from them was their undying devotion. And these are students who, some of them have visited me since they leave, come out, because I live in a kind of out of the way place, and they would visit, right? They would find me when they come back from foreign and, say hi. And this kind of respect and devotion that I got from them, and they would tell me, they always tell me that had it not been for me at that moment, they would not have been able to make it in the way that they did. So this to me is one of the highlights of my time at North Union. And one day I went to work. It was my birthday, but I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. Then I cannot find them. So I asked the principal, where is my class? The principal said he doesn't know. He said he doesn't know, but he knew. He knew. He actually gave them permission. So they were on the compound, but they were in the home economics room and they were cooking up a storm. Yeah,
Wow.
they actually
Wow.
cooked, they baked, they made a cake for me, and they had, some of them spent quite a lot of money for those times. Some of the, I think one of them spent about $75, and that was like to make up the deficit for those who could not afford,
Wow.
right? And at lunchtime, I was invited into the class. All of them were there, dressed in the muftis, and I am invited in the classroom. They lock up all the doors, all the windows, because they don't want anybody peeping in on them. And there they are, you know, actually going out of the way to give me a birthday surprise. And it really is the moment, one of the moments that I really appreciate. And if I have no other moments, if I had no other moments, that would have been sufficient for the rest of my life, that my job as a teacher was so meaningful and worthwhile. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and they gave me a plaque as well. And this plaque says, thanks for listening. Can I read it?
Wow. Sure.
Right. The plaque says, thanks for listening. And it says, you sensed in me a moment of complete, compelling need. You ventured in when others wouldn't dare to intercede. You listened and you talked to me, thus drawing spirits close. My problems and concerns you let me share in ample dose. Your sensitive response to me when my true feelings beckoned was fully demonstrated when you placed your own cares second. You let me into your life at a moment that was prime. I needed you, and you replied by giving me the time. And this,
Wow.
I think, was their view of what happened between us. That moment that made a difference for us, for them and me.
Wow.
So they gave me that plaque and I treasure it. It's lovely. I keep it here for them. So I've had pretty good
Satisfying.
moments that are,
No, I said it must be really satisfying.
yeah, it is. It is. But I've had very funny moments though. I've had moments that were funny.
Well, I was gonna
Yeah,
ask you. I was gonna ask you any regrets or
yeah,
any.
of course. One of the things I actually never did was to take students up to the principal. I figured that I needed to, as a teacher, I should be able to handle them, right? So I wouldn't take a student up to the principal. But in this case, I had to take him up to the principal because
So hold on. You're saying you regret. You're saying that one of the regrets is that you took a student to the principal.
No, I'm not regretting it. I took him
Oh.
up. But I'm saying that I don't normally, I never, that was not a norm. Like, say, let me take it to the principal. I'm saying that whatever happens in a classroom, I feel I should be able to handle it, right?
Okay.
But on this particular occasion, I had to take them up because the student set up a trap set chair, and when I sat on it, there it is. You can't have that. That one I couldn't take. And the principal happened to be.
Maybe you can tell us the student name.
Oh, a guy named Roger Henry.
Roger Henry.
and his father was the principal too. So I took him up. But normally I wouldn't take up anybody, but trust me, that one was outrageous. So I had to deal with it.
Funny. It's funny you said that though. I did an interview with another past teacher from North Union, and I think she also did some work at Adelphi. And one of her regrets was that there were two students caught doing something, and she took them to the principal, and instead of giving them like a regular discipline, they were expelled from school. And that was her regret because she thought that they didn't deserve to be expelled. So as she took it upon her own, things could have turned out differently. But instead, the principal went aggressively and expelled those two students. So,
wow.
Yeah, it does make a difference whether or not you pick it up on your hand and you pass it on, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I knew he wouldn't get expelled for that, and it's his father too. So
he was a perfect. Yeah, I think he was a perfect call.
He had no right to do me that. So, but taking students up to principal, and you don't need to do that as a teacher.
Right. So where is Miss Mounsey now? In terms of teaching, is she still active, retired?
Oh, yes, I'm fully retired. I retired in 2005, 2006 school year. I elected to take early retirement. I found that I needed some, a little less stress in my life. Not that the teaching
a little me time.
No, not me time. I have had so much time, but I needed a little less stress, right? Sometimes the powers that be can stress you, right? So I needed that. I didn't need. I found that if in the process of earning your daily bread, you have to go through certain humiliations and so on, just for the sake of that, it's not worthwhile. So I said, I am eligible to leave at this time, so let me leave. So I left. And you can give the job to whoever wants it. I will not take it. I will not do it.
So how is life in retirement now?
Oh, it has been great. I have had a lot of opportunity to explore different horizons. So I've been doing a lot of different things, not for any long-term
commitments,
for long periods, but I've done a lot of different things. So I've been a sub-editor on a local newspaper. I taught for a while at Girls High School. And I'm talking like about 20 years. And these students remember me. Why? but I realized why. I know why. And then I taught at St. Martin's School, secondary school. I was also the head of 2 private primary schools in the Grenadines. So I thought I was at Mustique as head, Mustique School, and at Canawan, there was another private primary school there. I was the head. I was facilitator for various workshops to train members of the police force. I facilitated workshops to train teaching nursing staff, the senior nursing staff. I facilitated workshop training of workers for national lotteries. I also taught summer school at the community colleges, division of teacher education. I did a number of consultations for service commission, about I think it was 6. We were working on a training document. So I did all the facilitations where you had, like, in one section, you had the PSAs and the chief of the department. And then another one, you had like principals, and you had, all those kinds of things, different consultations. I also worked with Dr. Marx's consultancy to provide for literacy and numeracy curriculum in the technical vocational arena. I do proofreading. So if you have documents that you need to be proofread, you can just get a little dinero aside and it will be done, and you will be so happy that you did. I work on my craft. I love to do handwork. I have edited magazines. I've been editor of magazines. Like there is a e-newsletter that I used to edit for several years from this church. And I also edited a magazine, a physical hard copy for a primary school that was celebrating its 70th anniversary. So I've done a lot of things which I would not have had the chance to do in full employment. And those couple additional years allowed me a lot of leeway. So lots and lots of good came out of it.
So any new projects?
Well, I have something I'm working on, but it's going to be kept right for a while.
Under lock and key.
Yeah, under lock and key. Right. So when I'm done, I'll call you and you can give me some promotion, say.
Yeah, absolutely. Take as long as you want. I hope we'll get a taste of it just now. Yeah. And anything that we missed that you would like to mention?
Well, all I would like to say at this point is that being a teacher is a very noble profession, because what you're doing is molding people for the future. You're molding people. You have a chance to shape another human being. And this is very critical. It's something that we should not slight, because a teacher does have that great kind of influence that could be used for good. Many teachers, I can't say everybody does it. Everybody does not do it. There are teachers who should not be teaching, and there are teachers who I would think these kinds of teachers can do more harm than good. But with the good teacher, it's a good chance. And I have a little poem here I can share again. It's called The Teacher. I took a piece of living clay and gently formed it day by day and molded it with power and art, a young child's soft and yielding heart. I came again when years were gone. It was a man I looked upon. He still that early impress bore, and I could change that form no more. So it's as the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, he will not depart from it. You can bend a tree while it is young. And this is part of the great role that a teacher has. And it's a profession that people should not enter in lightly because it's a serious responsibility. And we should be proud to do that.
True, because if you really, let me just emphasize what you just said there. If you really look at it, teachers are really preparing, people to be leaders, to be doctors. Imagine you're a teacher and you're teaching someone who's going to be a doctor or a lawyer, at a higher profession than you, pretty much, But I mean, I said a higher, but I think just the grassroots of it is just phenomenal. It's a big responsibility, and it takes a lot of to give back to someone really that can help them propel further on in life to become something or somebody greater. So yeah. So having said that, in wrapping up, I just want to thank you again for your time. You give so much of your time as a teacher. Now you're giving us back, knowledge and well deserved knowledge that you're passing on to us. And I must say, your voice is just the same like when I just, you just giving started teaching Spanish.
You what?
No, I'm saying your voice. I'm saying your voice is just the same like when I first heard you when you started when you came in.
Oh,
speaking Spanish. Yeah, and I'm so happy to really have this conversation with you. Knowing that you were one of my teachers and being able to thank God for this opportunity for us to have this conversation. So from the bottom of my heart and from all the alumni, I want to say thank you because I know everybody would like to say thank you. And I trust that they're going to enjoy this conversation that we had here and encourage the young teachers as well to keep up the good works and to know that what they're doing is building the future, not only for that generation, but future generations to come. They're setting the foundation pretty much.
Yeah, because we are the ones who can turn a child into a vagrant.
True.
Turn them into a junkie.
True.
Yeah.